Okay, up to this point, we've been talking about everything that you are doing, or that we are doing, right? You're going to loose the chains of oppression, you're going to break yokes, you're going to feed the hungry, clothe the naked. You're not going to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Okay, now we hit a transition word. And this is really important for you to understand Isaiah 58, you know. If you get a piece of paper and you draw a line down the middle and a line across the top and you put your name on the left, you're going to write all these things we've been discussing, right? And then on the other side, you can put God, Jehovah God, the creator of the universe. This is what God will do, right? So these are the terms of the agreement. Okay, bear in mind, the offering of this contract is an initiative from God. God is offering this contract to you. You have to choose whether or not you're a party to this agreement, okay? So now we have the transition word. The transition word is then. So this is where we come with, we say the if-then promises of God. These are conditional promises of God. These are contractual relationships. You do this, then that happens. Okay, this is how this is structured. This is how it works. And I would actually encourage you to get a piece of paper and write them out, you know, just the things we've been discussing. So then your light will break forth like the dawn. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background of how we came upon this understanding of Isaiah 58 as a contract. We had a big building. We had these huge lights, the old style lights that were like 1,000-watt metal halide lights that took forever to warm up. Maybe you've been in a gym where they have those kind of lights. So anytime I needed to do anything, I had to turn on 20 lights. That's 20,000 watts just to get a little bit of light. And so I had this idea. I'll get a pointer, a laser pointer like the teachers use. I don't know if you remember those. And then we'll shine them on some mirrors. It'll reflect a sensor. That sensor will work a relay, which will turn an individual light on that circuit. The other 19 lights can stay off, right? So it actually worked. It worked really well. And from there, we designed a new kind of fixturing system, used high output fluorescence. We designed a control system. We made the circuit boards, soldered the components, created programs and everything, and it worked. We can control any individual light out of thousands of lights, whatever way you wanted. So we were contemplating, do we want to do this? You know, it was like a lot of activity to build something from scratch and market it. So that was the decision that we had to make. Are we going to market this, or are we just going to, this is going to be a good idea? You know, we applied for patents, and that's where we were at. So our decision was, do we rent a booth in Vegas to introduce this to the world at the Light Fair? So in that environment was when I was reading Isaiah 58. So when I read this, then your light will break forth like the dawn, I felt like it was actually speaking to the decision that I was facing about lighting, you know. And the Word of God is living, and sometimes it can speak to us directly about something as mundane or material as a wireless lighting system, you know. And so that's what I felt. I felt, wow, this is talking about our lighting. You know, if we do all these things, then our light will break forth like the dawn. So I went through an exercise, you know, and this exercise might make you feel uncomfortable, and maybe it did me a little bit, but I was going like, are we feeding the hungry? And it was yes. You know, we had given space to a church that had a food pantry, and they were doing this in our facility. Are we clothing the naked? Oh yes. I had a friend who was identity recovery for people who were homeless. They'd give them haircuts, clothes, and everything to help them go to job interviews or whatever. You know, so I went through that list, one by one, checking it. And it was kind of like, this is a contract. This has the structure of a contract. So I actually called our corporate attorney, and I said, hey, I've got a contract I would like for you to evaluate. I want to know is it legally binding in Harris County, Texas? And so he was like, sure, Mark, you're going to email it? And I said, no, you can look it up. It's Isaiah 58. And he was like, oh, yeah. I said, no, I'll pay you, you know. And it's like $350 an hour for him to read a contract. And he's like, are you serious? And I said, yes, I am. You can bill me. You can just tell me, is it legally enforceable in Harris County, Texas? And so a couple days later, he called me and he said, you know, Mark, this is kind of interesting, a little bit unusual. Yeah, this has all the characteristics of a legally binding document. It states the original breach of contract. It sets forth the terms of the new agreement. It restates the terms of the agreement for clarity, and it is signed. Because when you get to the end of Isaiah 58, it says, you know, the mouth of the Lord has spoken. The mouth of Jehovah has spoken. And so it is a signed verbal contract, So, and it was his opinion that this is legally binding and enforceable in Harris County, Texas. So that was, kind of caught my attention. So we did decide, based on this, to go to Las Vegas and rent a 10x10 booth. And we were slammed. From going there, top development engineers from all over the world, from Europe, from here in the US, handfuls of Chinese, they all came and they wanted to know, how do you do that? And we knew that we were kind of way over our heads because the technology that we had introduced was not available to everyone else. We could change any individual lighting in an array of thousands in less than a second. And so we, in fact, we didn't eat breakfast, we didn't drink water, we didn't have lunch, we didn't even get a chance to go to the bathroom. Our booth was just swamped. And then it was kind of like the Lord speaking to us. It was like literally your light broke forth like the dawn. It was a literal thing. Eventually, we did all of the lighting for all of the Mandalay Bay convention centers, like 2 million square feet. They gave us the contract to redo all of their lighting. So this was kind of like a literal manifestation, okay? So really what this means is if we do these things, then the calling of God in our lives will break forth like the dawn. This is a very appealing image, and I think it's something very, very positive. So then is the transition statement, and now we begin with all of the things that God is going to do for us.